Usually I enjoy the beautiful cooler weather in the fall when we have this event, but thank goodness we had a place to get inside where it's dry today. I want to talk to you a minute about some of the criminal justice issues that I've been as a prosecutor for going on almost 25 years now. Right now, for this legislative session, I see the greatest opportunity for us to do something that we've been trying to do for a long time. I think we can achieve more during this legislative session for the criminal justice system than at any point, at least in my 25 years of watching it. You know, the economic issues we've every year in the legislature told Chris Epps, our Commissioner of Department of Corrections, to turn more out the back door, find a way to get them out. But what we're running into is we haven't provided them with the skills that when they do get out, that they don't come back. In fact, the majority of those who are in the penitentiary now, a lot of them have had a break before. A lot of them have been on probation. In fact, the majority in the penitentiary have been revoked for some other offense or crime. So we have to do more. And so this is a perfect time because of the economy. We have to save money. Secondly, the political environment is the best that I've seen it for us to make great strides. Democrats have for years advocated for early childhood education and issues that such as training and rehabilitation and treatment for criminals. Republicans on the other side have tried to save money on how we handle them. I think now we have reached the point where we all agree we've got to be smarter. So I see us in this next legislative session implementing things where we don't just turn the criminals out. We put them in positions where they have to wear an ankle bracelet, they have to work, they have to have training, job skills, they have to pay for their rent at little facilities around the state where there aren't fences. They're already on ankle bracelets, so we monitor them that way. They have a long period of time over their head. And so that if they mess up when they're in those facilities, they go back to the penitentiary for a lengthy period of time. I think drug courts need to be fully funded in our state, and I think the legislature has realized that our judges don't make a dime more by sitting there on a Friday and listening to some dopehead whine and go on about what's happened to him that week. That system has worked incredibly well, and my hat's off to those judges that have the patience to sit and take care of business. And it's the most effective because they know that man sitting or woman sitting there in a drug court situation can send them back to the penitentiary. So I see this is the greatest opportunity that we have to fight crime. Now, one issue that the MEC has advocated that I fully support is early childhood education. I think that we need to stay on the trajectory we're on toward fully funding pre-K education for every child in the state of Mississippi. That will be the greatest thing that we can do to fight crime. Statistics show that children from ages 3 to 6, about 85% of their learning capacity comes during that period of time. If you just have someone reading to them at a Boys and Girls Club or some type of intervention program, it makes them a better citizen, it reduces crime, and that, in fact, my friends, is the cheapest bang for the buck that we can do in law enforcement to make our communities safer. I want to mention a couple of more things that concern me out there. One is the issue of prescription drug overdoses. You read in the paper where someone died in their sleep, in their 50s. You can just about bet that that is a prescription drug overdose. It is getting at crisis proportions. In fact, in many states, the number one cause of death is prescription drug overdose. Not car wrecks, but prescription drug overdoses has overtaken that statistically. It is becoming a huge problem among our age era. Many of you are members of the baby boomer group. We're seeing so many deaths from prescription drug overdose, and part of this crime package, hopefully we will look at as to how we handle that. Now, out on the internet, we were seeing sales of prescription drugs come over the internet. In fact, I had our investigators make buys over the internet from Google's advertisers, when in fact they had entered into an agreement with the federal government in August of 2011, agreeing and paying $500 million fine to stop allowing their advertisers to sell prescription drugs over the internet without a prescription. Well, after they had reached that agreement, I sent my investigators online and they made those buys. So it is continuing. And I'm the head of the Intellectual Property Theft Committee in the National Association of Attorneys General. And in Boston, before our summer conference, I presented some of those cases where we had the lab reports that showed everything from Viagra to painkillers that we purchased online without a prescription. You know, the drop-down box on Google, when you do a search, that's the little drop-down box below. It is autocomplete. It suggests things. If you typed in prescription in May of this year, if you just typed in the word prescription, it would autocomplete down to buy without a prescription. In other words, it was leading even an elderly person who was looking online instead of walking down to the pharmacist to buy prescriptions online. It was leading you to buy drugs. In fact, they had YouTube videos that showed you how to buy prescription drugs without a prescription. And so I wrote them a letter and invited their CEO to our meeting, who of course didn't show up. But the fact is they took all that down off the internet. They stopped auto-completing to buy prescription drugs without a prescription. They also shut down all of those videos. There's still some out there about buy prescription drugs without a prescription. So the internet is an integral part of this prescription drug proliferation that we've seen, but I think we're making headway. One area, though, we're at a standstill with companies like Google, and that's intellectual property theft. Many of you are in the manufacturing business or in business of service trades. This intellectual property theft issue is huge for our country. In the future, we're going to see things like 3D printing. How many of you ever heard of 3D printing? You know what that is? Yeah, I know most of you aren't listening, but a lot of you that are, there's not many hands raised. What happens is there's somewhere in Jackson here, somebody's got a 3D printer that they can print a part that will work, but most of it's plastics at this time. But in the future, you will be able to order something online like a cell phone, and it will be able to mold the metal and do it right there at your home, or a tennis shoe. That's within 5 years, because these things are already in place. Now, what's going to happen with all of your businesses when other people can get this stuff off the internet and print it out and not come to your store and buy it, or your business that you manufacture? It's a huge issue out there for our country, and it's something that all of us need to be concerned about and working on. And I'm also concerned about issues like a cyber attack on our electrical grid. Many of you that went down after Katrina know that, New Orleans got all the media, the bad media, but it was dangerous at a time, because we all think, we're so sophisticated now, but you let our electrical grid shut down for 3 days and society can collapse. It is a huge problem for our country that we face with a cyber attack when we have an electrical grid shut down. Hopefully we won't see it, but I suspect in our lifetime we have to harden our systems, and that means you out in business and us in government, to protect our systems from linking into some type of cyber attack shutdown on our electrical grid. But all of those fears out there that I have, I've fought to protect our kids online because I got kids. All the fears that I've mentioned that we have issues that we have to address are probably not as bad as the one I want to talk to you about now. And that is the issue of how our country is divided and how badly divided our country is. 30 years ago, we began in our redistricting efforts. There were 135 members of the United States House of Representatives that were elected in districts that could elect a Democrat or a Republican. And so whomever got elected had to be responsive to the other side. They couldn't get elected if they were doing negative things toward the other side. That was 30 years ago. Reel it forward. In order to create more minority districts, we created a lot of lily white districts. And what we've done is we've moved that number from 135 moderates who had to be responsive to both sides and govern to less than 35. So you wonder why we have a shutdown in Washington. That's because we're electing people who get elected by being nasty to the other side. I don't know about you, but I don't know where it came from, but you always heard of this quote, that a country divided cannot stand. It's attributable to some of our founders, but it's in the Bible. And that is a true fact. And I don't know how it's taken 30 years to get in this mess. The Voting Rights Act has been stricken, so it doesn't get to a court where there's moderation. But we can't go on with our country this divided. So my challenge to you business leaders is to use your abilities to encourage people that run for office to be more moderate, to govern. And hopefully our country can move forward and get past this era of fussing and fighting. You know, I'm a lawyer. I make a living at that business. It is a tough business, fussing and fighting. Your line of work's much better, much more rewarding in a lot of ways. My hat's off to you. God bless you. Thank you.